Welcome to the Living Centred podcast, a podcast all about learning together how to live lives which are centred on Jesus. Everyone lives centred on something. Our goal is to learn together how every area of our lives, everything about who we are and how we live, can be increasingly oriented around Jesus and transformed by Jesus. He invites us to a rich and satisfying life, where the good news that he truly is enough changes everything about how we relate to God, ourselves, and the world. In each episode, a different person shares about what it's looking like for them to seek to centre their life on Jesus right now. As we hear their stories, we get to learn together and to encourage one another in what it means for Jesus to be at the centre of our lives. This is a journey we are all invited to, and a conversation we all get to be a part of. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name's Adrian, and it is so good to welcome you to this week's episode of the Living Centred podcast. And it is my privilege to introduce today Bethan, who will be sharing. Bethan, it is really good to see you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh, good. Well, to ease you in, as I do with everyone every week, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what your life looks like at this point in time?
Sure. So, I'm Bethan. I'm married to Aaron, and we've got two lovely children. We've got Eli, who's 6, and Esther, who's nearly 3.
Yeah.
Most of my week is spent with the kids, doing school runs, going to play groups, connecting with other local families. As part of this, I use my time to help organise events for the children at Eli's school, and raise money so that the kids can have extra experiences and things at school that the budgets just don't reach, meet. So that's fun and a great way to connect with the families there. And then one day a week, I work for a company called Open Theatre, which is a company that celebrates the creativity of young people with learning disabilities.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
fun.
Man, there's so many questions I want to ask you. I'm not going to. Right. Here's the big question then, as always. So within the richness of your life, all of those different elements, what does living centered on Jesus look like for you right now?
Okay. I've got 2 stories to help illustrate this, if that's okay. So the first one, a couple of months ago, Esther was at home. She was carrying some dry shreddies on a plate from the kitchen to the sofa. And as she was walking, she was looking down at her plate, concentrating very hard on her snack. But the problem was, she was looking down, the shreddies slid off the plate onto the floor. She huffed and puffed, picked them back up and tried again. But the same thing happened. Yeah. So her gaze was fixed on the plate and it tipped. The shreddies slid onto the floor and she was a little bit frustrated. But when she picked them back up again, I suggested that she looked straight ahead where she was going and not down at her plate. This time she stood tall, her head was held high, and she was focusing on what was in front of her. And she was finally able to carry the plate to the sofa. And then it just hit me in that moment that God was teaching me something. So in life, when I drop my gaze, I begin to focus on things other than Jesus, my problems, worrying about seeking other people's approval, when I try to do things in my own strength or control things. Just like the shreddies falling to the floor, things start to go wrong. I start to wobble. I lose my sense of direction and purpose, a bit like a compass that's just gone off track. And it's not like life suddenly becomes perfect when I focus on Jesus, but as my gaze shifts back towards him, I gain that eternal perspective that reminds me that when my mind's set on things that are above, not things on earth, that's where I find the true freedom. So that was just a picture that really helped me. And then at the other time, recently I was talking to a parent from Eli's school. And for a bit of context, the school is split into 2 sites. And in between the 2 sites, there's a church with a graveyard. And this dad, he was reflecting that he really dislikes having to walk through the graveyard every day because it reminds him of death. And he just finds it creepy, in his words. But it's funny, I've never had that feeling. I've always felt comforted that the school is on the doorstep of an active church. Yeah. Things like seeing the daffodils and the wild garlic bloom among the gravestones brings me hope. Yeah. And it struck me again, like it's all about where our focus is. In a similar way to Esther looking down and therefore dropping her shreddies, if we look down and focus on the death and hopelessness of the graveyard, then things do feel full of despair. But if we lift our gaze to Jesus and notice the church, the daffodils, the new life, then we're reminded of his eternal promises and the fact that death is defeated and he's our king. So for me, living centered on Jesus looks like fixing my gaze on Jesus and amplifying God's perspective which probably leads on to the next question, can be easier said than done.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get there in a moment. Oh,
Yeah.
That is so good. I love those two stories of just how immediately you can like, yep, I can see how that works out. And what I love is just like, what does it look like to center on Jesus? Well, there's these two ways to illustrate, but it's also how God used those two moments to just reveal it. I'm like, it's just keeping my focus on him.
Yeah.
It's just knowing that his perspective I need just within the life I've got. That's where I find the life.
Yeah.
It's really good. So then, I'm eager then. Like, what helps you as you seek to live with that sense of focus and perspective?
Okay. I'm conscious I don't want it to come across like I find this easy. And like my default setting is to just amplify his perspective all the time, because it's not. It's like a yo-yo, it's up and down. And I think that's why God's gently been challenging me in this over the last few months. But I think this season in my life, for me, it's not finding a chunk of time in the day.
Yeah.
But it's more like mini check-ins with God multiple times throughout the day.
Yeah.
Because he's always there. Why not?
Yeah.
So there are 4 questions that I found myself asking myself as I check in with God throughout the day. And they're around motivation. So what's motivating me right now? Is it my needs or like what Jesus wants for me and others? Approval. Who am I seeking approval from? Control. Am I in a place of trying to control things myself, or am I surrendering control? And perspective. Am I focusing on worldly perspectives or an eternal perspective? And so sometimes I'll just think control. I'm controlling things too much. I just need to release, surrender. This isn't all about me. Or approval. It doesn't matter what someone thinks of me right now. I'm going to have that conversation and just think about seeking approval from God. So those things I find really helpful. Practically speaking, I find listening to worship music really helpful as well. And it's how I'm reminded of biblical truths, and also how the children are discovering more about who God is.
Yeah.
I've got an example of that this morning, actually.
Yeah.
Esther wasn't keen to go to nursery, and I was just saying, just take things step by step. Let's have breakfast first, then we'll do our teeth, just bit by bit, step by step. And then Eli piped up and said, Esther, did you know that God is always with us, step by step? And then he started singing, I don't know if you know it, it's a song by Nick and Becky Drake called Every Step. And then we got Alexa playing it, and then we all just had a sing song. And she went to nursery really happily.
Wow.
Just singing those truths, which was really cool.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I also find unplugging from technology helpful. So I've been trying to put my phone on Do Not Disturb or airplane mode more often, just so I'm not distracted by the pings as soon as they come through. And also trying to steer away from social media as well, because that uses up a lot of my time without me even realizing it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the week, when I get a notification saying how much time I've been on my screen, I think, gosh, like, what could I have been doing with that time?
That's
so
really
consciously trying to not fill the silence with the noise of screen time, social media, all of that. And also just these podcasts I've found really useful to listen to. So when we joined back in June, when we joined Oasis, 23 episodes had already been aired. And I remember just binge listening to them, feeling so encouraged. So now I have to wait a whole week before I can hear the next one. But 23 in one go was quite
is a good go, man. That is a really good going. Oh, it's really helpful, Bethan. I just love it. I love those 4 questions. And I also love the fact that you're saying, this isn't like something I'm doing once, but rather at this moment in the phase of life I'm in, it's like a mini check-in.
Yeah.
Like throughout the day, which I just think, it's just life-giving. Otherwise, it can feel a bit like, I have this moment in the morning, and then I take a deep breath and then keep going.
Yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
I think, isn't relationship built on those mini check-ins throughout time?
Yeah, it's really comforting.
It's really good. And I love like saying, worship music, that being there just helps galvanize truth in me. And I love also how it's doing that within your family. And just Eli kind of helping his sister saying, hey, you need to listen to this song.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And I think just that reality of tech, of just, we've all got that, of taking those moments to just unplug or not look at.
Yeah.
As you said, before you know it, it takes so much time away.
Yeah.
I likewise, though I do these, I listen to them every week and find it just really helpful just to be encouraged of how others are seeking to live centered on Jesus. It just does me good. From that kind of wonder and beauty of what's helping you, I guess the next question is like, what are you discovering then about who God is as Father, Son, and Spirit at the moment?
Okay. Yeah, when I was thinking about this, the first thing I thought was just there is always grace.
Yeah.
So my gaze will inevitably drift away from him at multiple points throughout the day, but he always lovingly draws me back. And it's not in my own strength.
Yeah.
I think it just, it releases me to rest in that grace.
It's really good.
And rest from my own efforts, I guess.
I love that. And don't we all need to hear that? Like, I don't know, maybe you're listening to this. I don't know where you are listening to it, and you just need to hear that there is always grace. Yeah, that God is longing for you in this moment to just know, but who is he towards you? He's one full of grace, full of loving kindness towards you. Like, I know I want to hear that afresh again today. Which gets us to then the last question.
Yes.
Like, how are you changing? Like, if we were to have met you 3, 6, 12 months ago, how would Bethan today look different to Bethan then?
I think in the past, I have tried to put the focus on, at the beginning of the day, I must spend 20 minutes reading my Bible, focusing on God. Yeah. But actually, this moment by moment thing is really good. And it reminds me that he is with me every step. Like we were listening to this morning. He's always present, so we can always connect with him. I'm learning to rest in him more. The world will keep turning without me.
Totally.
He doesn't need me, I need him.
Yeah.
I had COVID a couple of weeks ago and I just had to cancel most of the things in my calendar. Wow. And they still happened in different ways. It's, I can take the pressure off and rest in him. Again, just being reminded of his grace more and more. I'm becoming less concerned about seeking other people's approval. There's sort of more freedom in that.
Yeah. That's really good. I'm loving that. I think it's, just that invitation to know, God, you're always there. You're always present. Therefore, I can always connect. That's beautiful. And just say, it's this invitation moment by moment to just receive more of who you are, God, to rest in more of who you are, to live from that place that you love me. Therefore, I've got nothing to seek approval for. I'm already more loved and accepted than I could dare to believe. It's just really beautiful. We got to the end. As people continuously say, are you going to say it? Of course I'm going to say it. My heart is well and truly full. It just does me the world of good having these conversations and just hearing, like, once again, like what living centered on Jesus looks like, but also the life that it brings. And that's what I get in terms of our conversation, Bethan. I think it's just done me the world of good.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for sharing of yourself, allowing us the window in to what your life looks like at this point. I think from the beauty of what you've been sharing, the thing I want to kind of pick up on are those 4 questions. And I think I just really like that. I've just at different points of the day to be saying, like, what's motivating me? Where am I looking for my approval? Am I looking to control stuff at this point in time? And I put in brackets, surrender. That's it for me. I think that's the continual ask. And then just that perspective. I think I just want to consider those at differing points of the day over the coming week and see what that looks like by the end. I think it's going to be good. How about you, my listening friends? What are you going to be considering out of the beauty, wonder of everything Bethan has shared with us? And lastly, I just want to pray for each and every one of us. I pray we would know more of the wonder of living centered on Jesus this coming week. Amen.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Living Centered podcast. New episodes are released every Monday, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do like and subscribe on your chosen podcast provider to receive them direct each week. Living Centered is produced by the team at Oasis Church in Birmingham, UK, and you can find out more and get in touch with the team via theoasischurch.com.